All right, Daruma Dojo, video 1.
My name is Alberto Juarez. I own and operate Daruma Dojo. I remember when me and Keiko came up with the name Daruma Dojo. We were at one of those lobster feeds where they throw all the lobsters and all the stuff on top of the table, and the tables are like paper. We got a pencil and we started drawing what we imagined as the first sketch of the Daruma Dojo logo. For me, it represents family, because that's what me and Keiko created, and that's what we want to embody here, like a family-friendly place where parents and their kids can come and train, and a community that helps people feel safe, where they can train hard and become better people. Let's make a circle in 5, 4, 3. The arms go straight up. You see? And when the arms go up, you can trap them with your legs. I feel that for someone to be a coach, there's kind of a couple of different prerequisites. A skill set is important. You have to have a certain knowledge of jiu-jitsu to teach. For me, for the kids, it's a blue belt. And then for the adults, if it's a fundamentals class, you maybe a purple belt or a brown belt and above. So the skill set is important. And the second is the vibe. The person has to vibe with the energy that we want to create in these classes. You know, they need to have that, what Daruma Dojo represents, you know. I don't enjoy reaching out and bringing people, because people that are within the dojo already know our community, they know our culture, and you know, they have to vibe with the culture, or else they're not going to become a coach. Gotta pass the vibe test. What drew me to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was the physicality of it. When I first started Jiu-Jitsu, I was 17, and I really enjoyed working out. And when I first started training, I never saw or never experienced a workout like it. And 17 or 18 years old. And the more I went to go train with Nick Diaz and with the team and Cesar Gracie's in Pleasant Hill, the more I realized that jiu-jitsu was so different. And I think the day that really sparked the interest in jiu-jitsu was I was rolling with an orange belt. The kid was probably 14 years old, 13 years old, much lighter than me, much weaker than I am physically. And he just tapped me out like 3 or 4 times in a 5-minute round, and I just had no answer for him. He was crawling all over me, taking my back, choking me, and it just blew my mind. And then the more I spoke with some of my colleagues, my boxing coach, he said, hey, if you want to be an MMA fighter, stick with Nick Diaz in the Cesar Gracie group. But if you want to learn just jiu-jitsu, traditional jiu-jitsu, then you should go train with Ricardo Barros in Antioch at the Half Gracie. You know, it's very physical with one person training with another person. You know, you're having like a mini battle within each other. And when I went to my professor's gym, like we would have like a 45-minute workout before the class even started. So they would call that a warm-up, but it was more like a 45-minute calisthenic workout, you know, where you're doing bear crawls, army crawls, sprawls, push-ups, jumping jacks, sprints, a lot of partner drills where you're doing like fireman's carries or backpack carries, or all these things where I just really right away fell in love with the physicality of it. And then eventually I related jiu-jitsu to physics, because I was really into physics and into science while I was studying in college. And I was like, wow, like it's got the same kind of Jiu-Jitsu became very scientific, where it applies these leverage principles and physics principles to allow the techniques to work. And so I saw both the physicality and the scientific applications. It felt very freeing. It's a different kind of release where you come and train on the mats and you do jiu-jitsu, opposed to anybody that works out, they understand kind of like the, maybe the runner's high or the endorphins that get released when you work out. But I felt like this one, when I felt that through jiu-jitsu for my first rigorous class, I felt it was much deeper. So my first gym that I trained at was the Half Gracie in Antioch, where my professor, Ricardo Barros, was the head instructor there. Before that, I trained at a gym with Nick Diaz and a couple other people, but that was more like an MMA vibe, and I never really felt the jiu-jitsu until I went to this gym. And this gym was very small, small. It was small mats, the walls were pretty close together, so you felt like really tight-knit, and you felt like you were in like a dungeon, like in there kind of, okay, getting a tough workout. And for me, the workout application, the strenuous, rigorous exercise and the long rounds of rolling wasn't necessarily the challenge for me. That was exciting, that was fun, I was in good shape, and it was a great way to stay in shape and get in better shape. But the challenges for me were trying everything that I have, using all of my force and using all of my strength and my athletic ability, and still failing. So I was constantly trying to stick a square piece in a triangle hole, like just trying to, and I'm a very stubborn person, so if it didn't work the first time, I'm going to try the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth time, and I had a hard time making adjustments to why my technique wasn't working. When I was a white belt, I already knew I was going to be a black belt. Like that was already in the future in my mind. And I think soon after blue belt, I started realizing that maybe I could teach for a living. I was kind of in a period where I was going from one kind of career path to another, and so that transitional period kind of kept me receptive to the idea, like, oh, maybe I can teach jiu-jitsu for a living. But I was pretty confident that I was going to be a black belt, even when I was a white belt. And so I saw this as a part of my life from the very beginning, just didn't think as a profession until maybe blue belt. And then by the time I was purple belt, I was like certain that this is going to be a career path for me in one form or another. My professor is my biggest influence, Ricardo Barros, because I was with him from white belt to black belt. I learned how to troubleshoot on how to make my techniques work or figure out why they're not working. I saw how he, came from Brazil, had nothing, and because of jiu-jitsu, he made a living for himself. And that inspired me that you can go from being new to the country, not having any money, and because of jiu-jitsu, it opened up all these opportunities for him. Not just owning his own gym, which he owns and makes a living and provides for his family through teaching jiu-jitsu, but also I saw how he interacts with other people. How through jiu-jitsu you get to network and meet people from all walks of life and make these friendships and make these connections where we help each other. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I learned from him, was how jiu-jitsu brings people together. When I first started jiu-jitsu, it was very surface level. It was all about trying your hardest to make things work, lots of struggle. hard work. And that was one part of jiu-jitsu, is like hard work, because I want to accomplish these goals, because I want to get better, and you notice that when I say that, it's like, I want to get better, I want to do this, I got to get, my next belt, I want to compete. So it was more of learning the fundamentals, learning the everyday training so that I can be better at jiu-jitsu, right? But now, jiu-jitsu is now jiu-jitsu brings on a much deeper meaning. When I think of, I feel like now, later in my black belt, I finally have a pretty good understanding of jiu-jitsu. And I still don't know anything. But what I thought I was doing back at purple belt, blue belt, maybe, and even brown belt, that was such a surface level jiu-jitsu. Now when I'm teaching, and when I'm training, and when I'm paying attention, when I'm studying, I'm seeing jiu-jitsu at a deeper level. I'm seeing jiu-jitsu much more with the concepts and the principles and the details, and I'm able to pass that on to the students, which makes me extremely proud and happy, because sometimes people ask me a question and I can portray to them an answer, and I'm like, wow, I'm so happy that I can see jiu-jitsu at that light, where I can pass it on, not just surface level, but deeper. And so I'm able to see that with my training, and it becomes less selfish. Like I mentioned earlier, it was all about, I need to get better. Jiu-jitsu, I need to get to the next belt. I need to get ready for this tournament so that I can become a black belt, or I can hone my skills. I'm still honing my skills now, but now it's more about, I'm gonna continue to keep myself sharp and look for the deeper meaning of jiu-jitsu so that I can share it with other people. And so that's a bigger picture. So that, for me, jiu-jitsu now is that bigger picture, much deeper roots than before, where I was much more surface level.
Jiu-jitsu is hard, man. It's hard as hell. It's mentally, physically, emotionally, everything about it is tough. But with all that toughness, man, it makes you just a better person. Because it makes you realize what you can endure, right? If you could endure this, man, you could endure anything in the world. That's how I see it.
I agree.
Everything else is just minimal. It's just kind of whispers. Yeah, jiu-jitsu. It's in your face, humbles you.
Yeah.
It really shows you, it pushes you, right? Shows you who you are.
Yeah, there's no lying in jiu-jitsu. When you're training, and it really puts you face to face with yourself.
Yourself, yeah. Yeah, that's really what it is. Because it's easy to give up, right? Real easy. You get tired and tap because you're tired. Okay, well.
Then you go home and you're like, you know what, man, I could have.
Maybe I could have just.
I could have kept training. I was being a little wimp. I was scared.
Yeah.
I was scared because I'm tired, and then if I keep training, then I'm gonna get my butt whooped. And I was afraid to get my butt whooped, or to have to put my ego aside or deal with my ego. I think someone that's really growing from jiu-jitsu, opposed to just showing up, is their intent and their curiosity. Many of us that have caught the jiu-jitsu bug understand that when we leave the dojo, we're still doing jiu-jitsu. We're thinking about jiu-jitsu. They have these funny memes where you're in bed, then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I just remembered 3 ways I could have escaped that submission. So it doesn't leave your mind, even throughout the day when you're doing other things outside of the gym, outside of the dojo. You're thinking about that role that you just had. You're thinking about the techniques that you learned. You're thinking about how you can improve, or watching videos, or continuing to study. And when you show up to class, you come to class and you train with intention. You're trying your best, you're paying attention, you have goals in mind. Right? So that's somebody that I feel is growing through jiu-jitsu, opposed to somebody who might just be showing up, which is great. If they're showing up and they continue to do that, they're going to start growing eventually, right? But it might take a little longer. And when they just show up, you know, their intent is to do the class, and that's it. And that's great. Maybe that's their priority. Come here, do the class, learn a little bit, get a workout, get in shape, meet people, have a good community. And then when they leave, they go about their lives. And that's great too. I think it's important that everybody learns self-defense. Jiu-Jitsu teaches self-defense. And first and foremost, that's what Jiu-Jitsu is. It's a form of self-defense, and perhaps in hand-to-hand combat, Jiu-Jitsu is perhaps the highest efficient self-defense that anyone can learn. Because of the principles behind Jiu-Jitsu, women, children, men, anyone can apply these principles and defend themselves. And so there's something empowering about knowing that you can defend yourself. And that empowerment that we teach here goes well beyond the mat. If I know that I can defend myself, or if I feel confidence in my ability to defend myself, then I have confidence in other aspects of my life. I have confidence in school, I have confidence in my job, I have confidence in relationships. So while there's tons of reasons why people should train here, our community, get in shape, feel better about ourselves, do sport. The main reason is to learn how to defend yourself and to build confidence that translates to other aspects of our life. Jiu-Jitsu teaches me how to problem solve. It really gives me the confidence that if something comes up in my life, that I can solve the problem or I can figure it out, right? Sometimes I can find the answers myself through trial and error, and other times I need to ask for help through masters in certain fields, through self-study. You know, Jiu-Jitsu is constantly problem solving, and I've learned that that's all that we do in life is continuously solve problems. And Jiu-Jitsu made me better at that. Jiu-Jitsu is very broad, and so I think when people feel like they're failing, I want to understand why they feel like that. Because if you compare yourself to Jiu-Jitsu as a whole, there's just too much to learn. Like, I've been practicing for 23 years and I'm constantly learning. There's so many aspects of Jiu-Jitsu that I'm not very good at and I have to get better. And there's other aspects that I'm much better at. So I first want to know why they feel like that. You know, is it because I get gassed out after a couple of rounds? Okay, now we have a problem that we can work on. Is it because, you know, I keep getting submitted here? Then I believe that some people look at failure, what they might perceive as a failure might actually be a learning tool. I think Jiu-Jitsu is extremely humbling. It's really difficult for people to be humbled on a regular basis. So when you come into Jiu-Jitsu, you're constantly being humbled, you're constantly being submitted, you're constantly struggling, having a hard time. And for some people, this is really difficult. Maybe they're experts in certain fields and they are having a hard time becoming a white belt all over again, having a hard time to become a beginner. And I think I've come to a point where that is a beautiful thing. I want to be a beginner forever. I love learning new things. I love being a white belt all over again. So I want, in order to help people motivate themselves, I want them to feel that it's okay to fail, that it's okay to be a white belt, it's okay to be a beginner. You know, people talk about when you come to Jiu-Jitsu that you need to leave your ego at the door, okay? And I disagree with that. I think it's impossible for us as humans to leave our ego at the door. Our ego follows us everywhere we go. And Jiu-Jitsu brings your ego up. It exposes your ego and your relationship with that ego. Now, is this relationship with my ego during Jiu-Jitsu so uncomfortable that I want to quit? Or can I establish a more healthy relationship with my ego? And it's really difficult. And so I think people that try to suppress it have a hard time, and people that can't deal with it also have a hard time. So I don't like the saying, leave your ego at the door. I prefer to say, make friends with your ego, get to know your ego. You are the lion tamer. You are, what's that movie, How to Train Your Dragon? For me, my ego is a dragon that sits on my right shoulder. And there's times where that dragon says, you can't do this. You're a failure. Don't do that. Fear comes up. You know, they make excuses. But then I have to tell my dragon, you know, hey, thanks for trying to look out for me, but I got this. I'm in control. Have a seat, and we'll talk later. And oftentimes that ego, when they come out and they're fire-breathing dragon, I need them, and it helps a lot. When I need confidence, I need to build myself up. An important lesson that I've learned from the mat that I'm able to take outside the gym is the community aspect. Because although we are here and we're training ourselves and we want to be better as a practitioner or as a human being or as a person, we're also part of a community. So how does that affect the people around us? Do I want to get better so I can help those around me? And in my path on bettering myself, am I putting other people down? Am I being aware of the class around me? For example, when you're training Jiu-Jitsu, you share the mat with other people. There could be 20 people on the mat and everyone's training. And I get really upset when students are training very hard and they run into other people. Is your sweep that you're gonna get on your friend during class and training more important than running into the person next to you? Is that submission that you could have got more important than your training partner next to you? Our training is important, but what's more important is the group and us all having this safe space together. So I think that's important, but you can take that to your family. Like, hey, I need to take care of myself, but I need to make sure that my family is safe. Or you have another community that you're part of. Maybe you go to school, or you have a team that you do soccer with. Like, you can't just hog the ball all the time. Like, you got to pass. Like, you got to think of the whole. So I think it's like a duality, like individualism and community mindset. So I guess It helps us to become less selfish. Honestly, I just show up. I feel like for me, there really is no choice. It's just part of what I do. It's my life. Jiu-Jitsu, I do every day. Some days it's hard and some days it's amazing. And of course, we always have a choice. Like, I don't have to show up to Jiu-Jitsu. But I've made it such a part of my life that it doesn't make sense not to show up. So I could say that there's many things that motivate me to do Jiu-Jitsu. You know, I want to improve myself. I want to provide for my family. I want to help my teammates. I want to help families. I want to inspire people to be better. And so when I look at all these things that Jiu-Jitsu means to me, it's much bigger than my lack of motivation for that day. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe I'd rather have a day where I rest or whatever, which happens every once in a while. I'm like, oh, I'm tired today or whatever. But I don't act on that because this is such a huge part of my life, and helping those around me, providing for my family, inspiring others to be better people, running the dojo, those are way more important than my lack of motivation for that day. So I just show up. I just do it. I don't have a choice. I just do it. I had a common misconception, and I believe that most people, when they do Jiu-Jitsu, have a common misconception that Jiu-Jitsu is all about getting a submission. And for some people, it's about enforcing their will on another person. And then it took me until I was a black belt that I realized there's two main end goals in Jiu-Jitsu. These are the end goals. One is to get a submission. And then the other one is to never be submitted.
Okay. And now I can start pushing this leg down and trying to get my leg free with this like long step, back step. You're trying to knee cut, you get stuck, maybe his knee's not ready to get his knees to the ground. Right? Here. So now I'm gonna switch to the other side. I can still have the underhook for now, but then look, this underhook grip, I switch it with this grip. Look. So now it's kind of like a, I don't know, reverse underhook. So if he tries to come up on me, I can use this to slow him down. Then this hand helps. I start punching, kicking back, and side control. Make sense? Questions?
So it wasn't until later in my black belt that I started realizing, oh, that's also an important goal, to not be submitted. So if you do a round, you're training with someone and you don't get submitted, that could be a great goal. That could be an accomplishment. And if you're training with someone and you get a submission, that could also be an accomplishment. But along those two things, there's so many, what I call, when you're training Jiu-Jitsu, there's a bunch of side quests throughout the whole time. And sometimes we get so focused on the end goal of the submission that people miss these side quests along the way. And that side quest could be, you know, working on different things, or it could be anything. I'm looking for a submission, but along the way, I am working on my defense, or I'm working on my balance, or I'm working on my energy management. I mean, there's so many other aspects to Jiu-Jitsu besides those two end goals. And I think people put so much focus on one or the other, depending on what kind of a person you are. I was definitely one that focused on just getting submissions throughout the whole time until maybe in my black belt, and I realized that there's another side to Jiu-Jitsu. And I know people that focus on the other side, just not be submitted. And that's their end goal. And then later on, maybe they can start seeing both sides. But there's so many side quests through Jiu-Jitsu. And the other misconception that I was talking about was trying to impose your will on people. And I realized that Jiu-Jitsu is more of a cooperation than me imposing my will on you or you imposing your will on me. It's more of us cooperating, because once we have that mindset when we're training, then so much more growth can happen. Because if I'm just trying to impose my will on you, I'm not allowing certain things. It's not allowing that side quest that could have inspired an aha moment at Jiu-Jitsu. So if we don't look at Jiu-Jitsu beyond those two main end goals, then we hold ourselves back from experiencing so many other things about Jiu-Jitsu. Before I was a black belt, I thought I was going to open my own gym. And then things kind of changed my point of view. I wasn't quite sure and certain. And then I would say it was about 6 years ago where I was determined I was going to open up when the time was right. For me, it made sense to start Daruma Dojo. We made the brand Daruma Dojo in 2018, 2019. And for us, it was what the Daruma represented. And for me, that represents a mindset of never giving up and getting knocked down and getting back up. And I love that persistent, persevere mindset.
Good guys, and your winner of the Sun Coast Hunting red corner, Alberto Juarez.
And dojo means a place of learning. So it's a place where you come in with a mindset to learn. So I want to learn and I don't want to give up. And you know that that's a recipe for success. And I really liked the alliteration, and we had, months to make our logo, but this was just making the brand. And then I had an opportunity to teach at a martial arts gym before the pandemic, where I was able to use our brand and teach using the brand. This was in Redwood City. And for me, teaching Jiu-Jitsu, I've been doing it for so long that it's what I do. And now I had a brand that represented myself. And that was nice. And then eventually, I was teaching at a different gym.
I'm on the bottom here in the mount, and I want to escape. I'm going to use the upa. Okay, a great opportunity to do that is when the person tries to choke here with the collar choke, okay? So before the second hand comes in, I'm going to trap his arm nice and tight, okay? And then my other hand is gonna go over and grab the back. Anywhere's fine, just hold tight. You can grab the gi if you want. My leg is gonna trap the foot on that side, and now I'm gonna bridge my hips high as I can and roll over my shoulder. And finish on the top here, inside their guard.
And I realized, you know what? I'm at a point in my life where I should do this on my own. I want to do things the way I want to do it and the way I see it. That way, things will get done. And you know, when you work for somebody else, you always have to, there's a lot more compromise that has to happen, and things happen more slowly and then things never happen the way you want it to happen. And so when I opened up Daruma Dojo, I was really happy to create something that I got to be the leader of the vision. And it gave me a lot of confidence to be a leader. And eventually, like once you have a dojo or a business and you're helping people through jiu-jitsu, you know, you see the team and you see the picture as a whole, and there's still some compromise at the end of the day. Like you want to compromise, but at the end of the day, you still get to make the decision. And so it just made sense eventually for me to open up my own business instead of teaching for other people or for other organizations, because I saw something that I wanted to create. And I think I had a mindset eventually, which was, you know, I can go all in on this idea, go all in on this business, and if I fail, I'm okay with it. But I wouldn't be okay never trying.
So we built a really great community here. And yeah, we planted it somewhere else and we brought it here, transplanted it here. And that's the community that I would love to be a part of. And when we moved, it was like, of course I'm going. Of course I'm going with the community that I helped build, right? It was one of those, like, we create these relationships with people, our students and our community members here, that are going to last outside the gym. Like they exist outside the gym. We go to dinner, we have barbecues, we hang out outside the gym, we help people move. That type of stuff. It's not just go to the gym, pretend to kill each other, leave the gym, and then it ends at the gym. No, like there is a lot of support that we have here that we've created from the ground up. And that to me is incredibly attractive in a gym. You can go to a gym and you feel like you're a nothing, a nobody. Nobody knows your name. Nobody knows where you come from, who you are, or like what kind of family members you have. Nobody knows if you have kids or not. And it's like, they don't care. And that's one of those things, like, if you want to be part of something that's bigger than just jiu-jitsu and bigger than just a jiu-jitsu gym, Daruma's the place to come.
The first time I went to Japan was when I learned about Daruma, which there's a deeper meaning behind it. It has some roots in like Zen Buddhism, but I didn't know that initially. It's like a souvenir that everyone in Japan knows. It's a prominent Japanese symbol. It represents good luck. People give it to as gifts. It's a doll, usually red. There's other colors that represent different things, but red is the main color. And on the belly, it says luck. And sometimes they write different things, but this is the most common one. Red, it says luck, and the eyes are blank. And you color in one eye when you make a wish or you set a goal. And then once the goal becomes accomplished, you color in the other eye. And so for me, being very goal-oriented, I thought this was really, really cool idea, because Now you take your goals and aspirations and you tie something physical to it. You know, I write down my goals, and that's one way to do it, but it's another thing to have it outside of words, outside of a piece of paper, outside of your tablet, and you put it onto a character, and that character represents what you see for the future. And I fell in love with what the Daruma represented, and ever since my first trip to Japan in 2016, that I was in love with what Daruma represented, and then eventually it became a symbolism for what I want to create here at the dojo, which is self-improvement, goal setting, perseverance, and learning. I think what sets us apart is the community aspect that we embody in our dojo. You know, Jiu-Jitsu is beyond the mats. We're intentional with creating this community where people can feel comfortable, feel welcome, feel a part of a team. When we feel safe and part of a team, then we are more open to trying new things, more open to explore and make mistakes. And so I've learned that when we can be open and willing to explore, make mistakes, be curious, be ourselves, then growth happens, much more growth, opposed to if we were not that way, people would be a little more scared to make mistakes. And then they hold themselves back. So I want people to grow, be better at Jiu-Jitsu, to be better people, and our community aspects really helps that. And so we are intentional in doing our best to make everyone feel welcome, to make the classes inclusive to all people, where they could be family men, women, our kids program, people that want to do Jiu-Jitsu for various reasons, to get in shape, to learn skills, to learn self-defense, to compete, to do the sport aspect. And one way that we create this community vibe, this team, is we hold events on a regular basis. We try to do at least one event per month. And this makes it really fun and engaging, and people to get to know each other outside the mats, where they can create a deeper connection with their teammates. Whether it's a barbecue that we held, or an in-house tournament, or a parent and me class, or a members appreciation. For example, we just had a kids pool party, and we had over 100 people from different families bringing their kids, bringing their wife, bringing their friends, and we had a potluck. So what really sets us apart is the community that we've created. When people come in for their first class, first and foremost, I want them to feel welcomed and safe. I want them to come in and, soon after feel okay, like I feel comfortable here and included. And then when they leave the class, I want them to feel inspired. I want them to feel excited to come back for the second one, to learn more. Because the first class, if it's a good class, you're gonna have thousands of questions. And that's gonna want people to continue training.
So right now, Chris on the bottom, they're just going to try to close the guard, and I'm going to use my combat position, my knee here, to prevent them. That's all I'm trying to do. Does that make sense? So it's like a little battle within this position. Okay? All right. On 3, I'm going to clap and find a friend, practice the game. 1, 2.
In 5 years, I see Daruma Dojo with a strong team. And what I mean by that is, as of right now, we have 2 locations. In 5 years, I wouldn't be surprised if we had more than that. And in order for us to accomplish these dreams, we need a team that is behind it. And so in the next 5 years, I see us building a very strong team behind Daruma Dojo that is on board with making this a place for the Bay Area primarily, and first and foremost, to train jiu-jitsu and have a community where they can come and become better people. So, you know, like right now at our MILPITAS location, Professor G, he is the head coach over there. He's the head professor. And this has given him, and he's totally doing amazing at having the freedom and the confidence to run his program. Now there's certain things that Daruma Dojo represents, and in fact, we have systems in place that I'm continuously working on and continuously sharpening our systems so that it just makes it much more streamlined for people like Professor G or the next professor or next coach or next manager that takes on a role at our dojo to have a handbook, a guide to help them have the freedom and be creative in leading. So I see us building a stronger and bigger team within the next 5 years. That's a good question. That's something that Jiu-Jitsu, like you mentioned, and in life, people come into our lives and people leave our lives. The dojo is just like that. People come into the dojo, they train for a period of time, and they leave.
I feel excited. Yeah, I didn't think I would be here.
And I was actually talking to students about this recently. They've been here with us since we've opened, or for an X amount of time, for a couple of years. And they're like, wow, like I've seen so many people come and go in the past year. The person that I was talking to has been there for like 2 years out of the 3 that we've been open. And I'm like, yeah, this is life. People come into your life, they stay for an X amount of time and they go. There's a small group of people that stay in your life forever, that stay at the dojo and they're lifers. They're at Daruma Dojo from day one, they get their black belt and they're Daruma Dojo forever. And that's a very, very small percentage. So the majority of the people that come into the dojo and they leave, I want them to carry strong memories from this place. Positive memories. I want them to look back at the training sessions that we had, the sweat, the hard days, the happy days, the sad days, hanging out on the mat, chit-chatting after the class, going to lunch after class, having dinner, community events. I want them to build memories that they can take with them. I want to have a positive impact on the community. And my main goal in doing so is I want to inspire. What kind of mentor do you want to be to the next generation? Because, you know, that's our responsibility, in my opinion, is once you get to a certain point, let's just say in jiu-jitsu, when you get to the black belt level, you have a responsibility to teach the people below you. That doesn't mean you have to own a dojo. That doesn't mean you have to teach classes, but you are now what people are looking to for answers, whether directly or indirectly, you know? So when people look at you as a black belt or a higher belt, are they seeing what you hope they see? Are they seeing someone who is, you know, humble? Are they seeing somebody who thinks of others, who helps those around them? What kind of black belt do you want to be when you have your students, or when you become that level of jiu-jitsu? How do you want to represent the art? I feel like inspiration is the strongest tool, because I want to inspire people to do the hard things. I want to inspire people to chase after their dreams. Like that's my personal mission statement, my personal mission statement is to live in alignment with a higher power, to be the best version of myself, and through that, to inspire those around me, through love, through compassion, so that they can also be the best version of themselves. When someone earns their black belt with us, I want it to feel to them like it's just the beginning. I want that person, or I envision that person tying that belt around their waist for the first time and thinking to himself, it's only just begun. Because in order to earn a black belt, you have to have a skill set. You have to be an expert to earn a black belt at jiu-jitsu. And that doesn't mean you have to be an expert at everything. It means you have to have a level of skill, a level of understanding of the technical aspect of jiu-jitsu in order to be a black belt. That being said, once you get your black belt, there's no other belt to get. Of course, there's the coral belt and red belt like 50 years down the road, But once you're a black belt, you got to settle into that black belt. And there's a feeling of it's just beginning. In judo or in many different other martial arts, they call the black belt a shodan, which means the first belt or the beginner's belt, right? So my professor always said, when you earn your black belt, now jiu-jitsu begins. So, and that is something that I believed him, but once I got my black belt and years into my black belt, did I understand him. And, you know, I was telling this to a student recently. I said, like, once you get your black belt, then you really start doing jiu-jitsu. Then you really start learning jiu-jitsu. And then they were like, so what are we doing now? We're doing pre-jiu-jitsu? And I was like, you're doing jiu-jitsu. And when you get your black belt, you'll understand that now I represent jiu-jitsu. And so I want people to feel when they earn their black belt at Daruma Dojo that yes, they've accomplished a big milestone and it's just the beginning. It's a hard work. I think it's cliche, but I think an important message that I'd like to convey is that if you believe in something and you want something, then you have to do it. If there's something that you feel is important, then there's nothing that'll get in your way. So believe in yourself, work hard, keep your eyes on the prize, as they say, and do the things every day that'll help you get there. My name is Alberto Juarez. I teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm the head professor and the owner-operator of Daruma Dojo.